Hi guys, Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and today I'm going to be giving you guys a studio tour. So if you've been following me on Facebook for a little while, I posted some pictures of my studio a little while ago, and so now I'm going to give you a full studio tour. So this is the one side of my room where I keep all of the supplies, and I'll be going more into that in a little while. And I've got a nice window over there to let in some light, as you can see. And then that is my photo box, and I'll be showing you that in a little while. And then here is my desk where I actually work, and you can see that I've got lights over there, and that gives the nice clean white light for the videos. And then I've got a TV over there, and the tripod actually sits just behind that tile over there under the middle light, and the TV has a little cord over there, and that connects into the camera, and so when I switch on the TV I can see actually what's going on under the camera, so that helps me keep my hands in the frame so you guys can see what I'm doing. So let's go over there and take a closer look. Okay, so here's my tile, and this is what I work on. So you can see that I'm working on a faux Larimar tutorial at the moment, and that will be posted on Etsy in a little while. So I'll just bring you that up for you to see. And then here's the TV. You can see the cord hanging down over there, and so that means that I can see exactly what's going on. And just over here, round about over here, this is actually where the tripod sits so that I can get the view right over the tile. Then the computer sits over there. And then right over here is the light box. And this is where I take my pictures. And so you can see I can swivel my lights around, and so that shines down on the light box. And so I'll just show you what I do. So this is a makeshift light box that my dad made for me, and what I do is it's covered in one sheet over here so that it dulls the light, because otherwise the light is too bright. And then what I do is I take the sheet and I place that over me, so I'll show you what that looks like inside. There we are. So you can see that it's nice and bright inside, and that's actually where I take my pictures. So it's a bit of a makeshift light box, but it works really well. Okay. And then just behind the light box I have this big box of driftwood which I collected from the beach and from the forest and places where you can find sticks and things like that. And those are some of my photo props. So you can see that I have a nice big box full of that. And so moving on to this side of the room is where I keep my big tools, like the Lucy Clay Slicer, which I'll be doing a review on later on. And then it's also where I have sorted out all of my things that I've made. So here's an experiment box, and so that's where I'm playing around with things like PBO paints, and I've got a bit of faux turquoise at the back here, so you can see that I've got a massive bag of faux turquoise over there. And then over here are all the projects that I plan to do on YouTube. So I've got a bead over there, and there's the PBO paint and that we're going to do. And then here are the ones that I have ready for patrons, so I've divided them into the separate tiers. So that's the $5 tier, and there's the $9, so you can see that there's a lot in there. And then here's the $15, and I've got lots of stuff in there. And then over to the side over here I've got things for Etsy. So here's my Etsy box, where I've got a piece of tape so I can measure that these are the right sizes, because you guys choose the size that you want. And then I keep things in here that are ready to go. And then over here are all the tutorials that I plan to put up on Etsy. So I've got the faux Larimar and the faux malachite and some labradorite as well. So I've got lots in here that I'm going to be making tutorials for. So that's all of my jewellery and things that I sorted out down there. And then over to this side we have my supplies. So I've got all of these boxes sorted out by label. So here are where I keep all my drill bits. And then I've got a blade box down here. And then I've got all of my rollers and bits and bobs. Got some end caps. And then these rollers, I've got some hollow ones, and I use those in my photo tutorials. I'll be showing that later. And then here I've got a carving set. And then here's where I keep the things for my hollow bead. So I've got my tape and stickers and things in there. And then up here I've got some rollers, so I'll just bring you up. So I keep things like pencils and rulers in there, some more rulers and my roller and my other things, and then some paint brushes. And then in here I've got my piercing tools, got my sculpting tools, and they're all by label. Here's my ball tools and so on down there. Then over to the side we got some other things, like I've got some mould compound over here that I got for Fun Mountain Gems, and I've got all my texture stamps in here. So I've got all of the rubber ones, and then I've also got some ones that I got off eBay, the rollers. And then in here I've got all the Melanie Muir ones, so you can see that I've got a lot in here. And I've got the Sculpey ones as well, and I've got some different rollers over there from a different make. And then here's where I keep all my foils and my metal leaves. And here's my photo transfers. I haven't plucked up the courage to try this out yet, but I do hope to try it out soon. Then over on the other side I've got other things, and here on top I've got some paints. Then I've got things like Repel Gel and Poly Paste, and here's the logo stamp that I printed. And then we've got things like stays on inks and some of the things that we need for the alcohol. And then I've got some little stamps over here, so bits and bobs around here. And then I've got some of these punches. And then this is where I keep my cutters, so I've got the little ones over here, and then I've got the big metal ones over here. And then in this drawer is kind of more of an experimental drawer. I've got these ones which are too big to fit into this drawer. And then some more of my metal cutters. And then these are the ones that I made, which aren't very good. And then got some cutters that I disassembled to make these wiggly blades for Mukume Gane. And then in here are all of the texture stamps that I got off of eBay. And they're scrapbooking stamps. And then here are my stencils and my silk screens. So I've got Lucy Clay ones, and there's some of my silk screens. Trying to keep my head out. Then here are just some sponges that I use for things like mica powders. So that's all over here. And then under the table, this is where I keep my props for the most part. So here's where I keep my stones. So you can see that I've got some urchins in there, and I've got some of my handmade stones. Just bring this over for you to see better. And then here I've got some bone, but for the most part it's things for stones like this. So that's where I keep my stones. And then in here is where I keep a lot of my wood and things like that. And then these are all props for my photos. So I've got a burnt piece of wood over there, so it's all interesting. And then over to the side over here I've got some more props. So I've got a piece of seaweed over here, I've got some feathers and these little pine pieces and some shells. So it's all a bit of a jumble of things that are just going to be used as props for my photos. And then down here, I'm not going to pull that out, I've just got things to make the backgrounds of my photos more interesting. So things like scrapbooking papers and pillow covers and things like that. And then over to this side is where I keep some of my clay pieces. So you can see that I've got a board of wood over here, and then I just hammered these hooks in, and then I used the punch that I have up here. So here's the punch. I just punch holes into the tops of the bags if they don't have any, and then I hang them up on the wall. So I've got all of my watercolor experiments in here. I've got a whole bunch in there. And then I've got some liquid clay experiments down here. And then here's some of my faux stones, so that's my lava. And then I've got some abalone going on over there as well, and some stones. And then further up, here's where I keep some of my makumegane, so you can see in there. And then here's some of my faux watercolour technique, and I show a tutorial on that. And then further up, I've got some crackle techniques. So over here we've got some crackle paint tutorials, and almost all of these I will be showing in some sort of tutorial. And over here I've got messing around with alcohol ink, trying to get a pebble pattern. Okay, and then further up I got things that like mica shifts over here, and then I also keep some of my Skinner blends here, but mostly it's mica shifts. And here's some satin slices. I've taught a tutorial on some satin slices. And then a little bit further up, got things like stripe canes and some border canes and things that I've made. And then just some arbitrary sheets that I'm not sure where to put. So that's kind of my experimental hook. And then over to the right, we have my table where I just display all the things that I'm really happy with. So you can see that this is where I keep my bracelets, and this is one of my labradorite pieces. And then over here is my cherry blossom necklace, and that's available on Etsy and in my Patreon community. And then some earrings, a little bit empty at the moment because I haven't been making a lot recently, but I'll fill it up. And then a little bit further over, I got a jar, so that's one that I've been playing around with. I haven't mastered making jars yet. And then I've got another piece over here that I'll be showing on Patreon, and it'll be available on Etsy as well. It's my lost letter bead, so you can see that's one of my latest pieces. And then under the table I've got some more props, and these ones are from the beach. So you can see the pumice stones and some of the coral in here. So got some nice pieces. It's a little too bright for you. Turn it down a little bit. There we go. And then I have my sandpaper. So I have the textured sandpaper over here. And then I have my polishing papers over here. And then here are my handmade pieces to square up my canes. So you can see it, there's just 2 pieces of wood, and I've got 2 more pieces down there, and I just use that to square up my canes. And then over here I have my sheets, and so this needs a little bit of sorting out, but this is basically where I keep my colour recipes. And then here are the pieces that are basically too big to go onto the pieces of wood. So I plan to go through and sort this out, but at the moment that's how I keep them. So you can see I have a bunch in there that need to get used. I'll just move that up. Okay. And then under there, another box. And I'll just bring you down a bit so you can see. And this is where I keep my varnishes. So both experimental and good varnishes. So here are some that I got on holiday in South Africa, and so far they seem to work, but I don't really like them anyway, and I'm not going to be able to get them again. And varnishes like Mod Podge that I'm experimenting around, and then Liquitex and Cernit and Min Wax and Renaissance Wax and so on. That's where I basically keep all of my varnishes. So that goes under there, and then over here is where I keep my heat gun, because I have no better place to keep it at the moment. So you can see here's the really big heat gun, and I use that quite often in my tutorials. That goes under there. And then off to the right again we have the shelf, and then over here is where I keep my bags. Here where I keep all my colour recipes, so you can see that it's pretty chockers at the moment. Then here's where I keep all my faux imitations, all in bags sorted out. So this is all my faux, so I've got some turquoise over there, and you can see I've got some Larimar there, and they're all in the process of either getting turned into tutorials or me experimenting around with them. And then over to the side over here we have things like my canes. So there's a bunch of canes in there, and they're all sorted out into bags, but because I don't have a bigger area they have to stay in these little baskets for the moment. And then further up are my folders, and these are where I try to sort things out. So I keep chips of what I've made, so I'll just bring one over to show you. So let's go over to the side and have a look. And so these are my faux pieces, and you can see that I've printed out little things to keep them in, and then I can label them, and then I can put some colour recipes next to them if I need to. So here are all my abalone attempts, some more shell, and here are some of my porcelain, and I was trying to make faux raku over there, and some marble and things like that, and just basically through the entire book got a whole bunch of things. And so you can see here that I've got all my colour recipes. I'm not happy with this one yet, but you can see that I've made chips for all my colour recipes, and then I've got the colour recipes down here. So it's a great way to sort out everything. And I do that for my canes and my sheet chips. And then I've also got a few colour recipes. I've only got one for Kato at the moment, but you can see that basically goes through by colour. So I've got a whole bunch in there, and that helps me with my colour recipes. And I've only done one for Kato at the moment. I do plan to do one hopefully for Primo and Fimo, but at the moment I only have one for Kato. And then another one that I have is to store my mica powders, or well, my eyeshadow. And so I went to a website and got a whole bunch of sample pieces because it was pretty cheap. And so instead of just dumping it all in a box, I've just sorted it out into this folder, and it helps me know where everything is. And then the last one is the one that I keep for shapes. So I've got a whole bunch of paper ones over there, and then I've also got some ones that I've just basically hand cut. So this is where I keep all the templates. Just move that out the way, and then we can move on. And then over to the side there next to the folders is where I keep all of my leftover clay ready for my leftover techniques, and they're all divided into little packets. And so that's a big box of leftover clay for me to do something with. And then over here I've got some other things, so I might bring you higher so you can see better. There we are. And so this is my box of textures that I found around the house. So you can see that it's got a lot of bits and pieces in there. And then over here I've got my ice resin, just the extra piece. And then I've got all of my ice resin bits and bobs in here. So I've got the resining mat and the sticks to mix it with, and the mixing cups and the actual ice resin. And then over here I've got all the alcohol inks, and over the period of time I've accumulated quite a bit, so that's where all of them are. And I'm just going to bring you over to the side over here so you can see what's going on. Then here's my acrylic paints, and here's my mica powders, all the big ones that can't actually go in that folder. And here's my little ones, and these are mostly the Pearl X ones. And then here are all my embellishments. So you can see I've got some ice resin opals, and I've got these mica flakes and some embossing powders down here. Then over to the side, over here, I've got my PBO paints and other normal paints. And then I've got some Gilder's paste. And then just some more paints in here. So that's basically everything there. And then right up here I've got all of my clay. This is where I store it. So here's all the unopened packets basically for Kato. And then here's all the unopened packets for Primo. Can't really see inside there. And then on top here I've just got some of the open packets that won't actually fit into my storage containers. You can see I've just kept them over there. And they're also a little bit wet for my liking, so I keep them open, the packets slightly open, to air them out. And then over here is where I've got my findings. So check that out. You can see that that's all my findings. And then in here I've got all of the faux stones that I'm busy playing around with. So you can see that there's quite a bit in there. I've got 3 boxes full. And they're just little pebbles so that I can see what I need to do. And then over here I've got things like my Fimo Soft and my Kato concentrates. And then I've got some extra blocks up here of the Kato concentrates so you can see what they are. So that's where I keep my clay. And then I've got some experimental canes in here. And then nothing really in these drawers. They used to be where I stored my clay. And then I've got Cernit in here, here and here. And then in there some more Kato concentrates. And then this is where I used to keep the souffle, but now I've got Pardo in both drawers, so I need to relabel these, but I just moved over, so haven't got around to that yet. And then over here is all the open boxes of open packets of clay. So I've got the Primo, Kato, Fimo and souffle in there. And then I've got my liquid clay in here. And I've got my Swelligant in there. Right up top here, I can't really show you what's in there, but I've basically got things like shells and stones that I use for texture. And then I've just got little embellishments like clock parts in here. And then I've got some paper over there that I like to use as well. And I've got some stamps and shapes, so things that I've made over there. And then I've got molds, some nail plates. I'm experimenting around with those to see if they work in replacement of things like silk screens. And then over here I've got all of my clay textures, and I'll actually take that out to show you. And then I've got things like texture plates in here, just things that I got from eBay. So I'll take this down so I can show you. So I've just propped it up on the chair, so you can see that I have some nice handmade textures in here. And if you guys want me to show you how to make textures, I'd be very happy to. And also another thing that I've been wondering was if I put these up on Etsy for like $6 each maybe, if you guys would want to buy them for the project tutorials. It's just been something that I've been thinking of, because I can make these quite easily and it might save you guys some time. So you can see that I've got lots of textures in here, and I've even got some reverses of the ones that I've bought because I wanted a reverse. So that's where I've got all of my textures. And then lastly I've got where I keep all of my big pieces of clay. So I need to make a few more of these boards and sort out some of those pieces that are in the baskets, but it got away with me, so I need to definitely sort out a little bit more. So you can see that I've got a whole bunch of things. I've sorted them out into specific groups. So here's where my Mukumegane is. I've got some crackles over there. This is where my faux stuff is. And there's some more faux above that. And then there's some alcohol things that I've been playing around with, some micas, and then just leftover clay techniques basically. So that's basically it for the studio. It's a bit small. I would like it to be a little bit bigger, but for the moment it's really good. So really happy with what it looks like. And so I do hope that you enjoyed the studio tour. I definitely enjoyed taking you guys around and showing you everything that I have in the studio and things that maybe we'll be playing around with later on. So you can definitely look forward to seeing some more projects for YouTube and Patreon and Etsy. And there'll also be some specific ones that I leave on my website for just my website, so be sure to check around on my website, as there'll be exclusive tutorials for my website, jessamaTutorials.com. So if this was enjoyable for you, please let me know in the comments below. That will be really nice for me. And let me know what your studios look like. I'd love to see some pictures on Facebook if you guys would like to send me some. And as always, I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.